All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at synonyms.
Ooh.
But not just any synonyms. We're going to be looking at nuanced synonyms.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you can say the same thing using different words.
Yeah.
And it has a totally different impact.
Exactly.
And we found a great source for this deep dive. So, without further ado, let's jump right in and see how we can all learn to use words better and understand people better when they use certain words. So
it's all about precision.
It is all about precision. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Because, you know, there are a lot of words in the English language that kind of mean the same thing. But how do we choose the right one at the right time?
Exactly.
And that's what nuanced synonyms is all about.
Yeah. So the first pair of words we're going to look at are angry and irate. Now, our source says that both of these words obviously mean displeased or upset in some way, but they have different
connotations.
Connotations, that's a good word.
Yeah.
So how would you describe
the
difference between angry and irate?
Well, I think angry is like, you know, kind of like everyday frustration. You know, you're stuck in traffic, you spill your coffee, you know, your internet's not working, you're angry.
Right.
But irate suggests something more. It suggests a loss of control.
Oh,
almost like a raging.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a much higher level of being upset.
It is.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I was actually once irate at a restaurant.
Oh.
They brought me the wrong order like 3 times in a row.
Oh, no.
And the third time, I think I actually said, "This is outrageous, I'm irate."
Oh, wow.
I don't think I've ever actually used that word in real life before.
Well, clearly they pushed you to your...
They did. I was very hungry.
To your limit.
They pushed me to my limit. So I guess I was hangry. There's a whole other...
Right, a whole other...
synonym we could get into.
Exactly.
So I think this really illustrates how choosing the right word can really paint a picture for the listener.
Yeah, absolutely.
It also makes me think about how, you know, you were saying that it can make a difference if you're reading it too. So if, let's say, I'm reading a news article and it says, you know, the CEO was angry about the recent stock drop versus the CEO was irate about the recent stock drop.
Right.
I'm going to have a different image of that CEO in my mind.
Exactly. You're going to be much more fearful of that CEO who's irate.
Exactly.
Because you think they might be making some irrational decisions based on their emotional state.
Right. That's a really good point. So it's not just about how we use words, but also how we interpret the words that others use.
Absolutely.
And speaking of interpreting words, the next pair we're going to look at is persuade versus coerce.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because this has some serious implications.
Yeah. So the basic definition is that both of these words involve getting someone to do
something.
Something.
Right. The method is very different.
The method is very different. So what would you say is the core difference between...
Okay. So persuasion is like appealing to someone's better angels. You know, you're appealing to their reason, their logic, their emotions.
Oh, okay.
You're trying to convince them that this is the right thing to do.
Oh, okay.
Or the best thing for them.
So it's like you're giving them all the information and letting them...
You're respecting their free will.
Right, respecting their free will.
Yeah, exactly.
To come to a decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about coerce?
Coercion is more about force.
Force.
It's about pressure, threats, manipulation.
So you're not really giving them a choice.
You're not giving them a choice. You're saying, do this or else.
Ooh. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
So there are definitely some ethical considerations here.
Yeah. I can see how that...
It could be pretty tricky.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? Think about marketing.
Right.
A lot of marketing is about persuasion.
Yeah.
But some marketing can kind of edge into coercion.
Oh, that's interesting.
Where they make you feel like you have to have this product.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's like that feeling of, I'm not good enough unless I buy this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really important to be aware of these tactics.
So I think this is a great example of how just one word can really completely change the meaning of the meaning
and the implications of what you're saying.
Wow. Okay. So let's move on to the next pair, which is curious versus nosy.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah. I think we all want to be seen as curious, right?
Yes.
But nobody wants to be
nosy.
Right.
Because curious has positive connotations, right?
Right.
It means you want to learn, you want to explore.
You're interested in the world.
You're engaged.
Yeah. So what's the difference? How does it...
But nosy crossed that line.
Nosy is when you're getting into other people's business.
Ah.
You're crossing boundaries.
Okay.
It's like,
so it's all about boundaries.
it's all about boundaries. Like, you can be curious about someone's work and ask them questions about their work, but you wouldn't ask them about, like, their divorce.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be nosy.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess it's all about being mindful of
context
and the appropriateness of your questions.
Right.
Yeah. I like that. All right, moving on. The next one is confident versus arrogant.
Oh, this is a classic.
Yeah, these are two words that I think are
often confused.
Yeah.
But they're very different.
They're very different. So how would you define confident?
Well, confident is about believing in yourself,
Okay.
knowing your worth, knowing your strengths, but without putting other people down.
Oh, okay.
It's like a quiet self-assurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're
You don't have to brag.
boasting.
You don't have to boast. You just know you're good at what you do. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
What about arrogant?
Arrogant is when you let it go to your head.
Oh.
It's like you think you're better than everyone else.
Right.
And you often put other people down to make yourself feel better.
Oh, so there's that element of it.
It's like an inflated sense of self-importance.
Right. It's not just about being confident. It's about being superior. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like confident is a healthy level of self-esteem.
Self-esteem.
But arrogance is like it's gone too far.
It's toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the last word pair today, we are going to talk about economical versus stingy.
Ah, yes. Money matters.
Money matters. Money matters.
Yeah.
So, again, I think we all want to be economical, right?
Yes, we want to be financially responsible.
Right. We want to be smart with our money.
Make wise choices.
Right. But when does that become stingy?
Well, economical is about being efficient.
Okay.
Getting good value for your money. It's like, you're not wasteful, right? But you're not afraid to spend money when you need to.
Okay.
Stingy is when you're unwilling to spend money even when it's necessary.
Oh.
Even if it means you're depriving yourself or others.
So it's like you're taking it too far.
You're taking it too far. It's like, refusing to buy new shoes even though yours have holes in them.
Right.
Or always splitting the bill down to the last penny, even if it makes everyone uncomfortable.
Right. It's like you're putting the money...
It becomes an obsession.
Above the relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So I think this deep dive has really shown me how just one word can make a
huge difference
in how we communicate,
how we perceive things,
and how we understand,
and how we interact with the world.
And you know what? I bet everyone listening right now is thinking about all the words they use every day.
Thinking about their own vocabulary.
Right.
Yeah.
And whether they could be using more precise language. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from all of this.
Absolutely.
Is that being more mindful of the words we choose can really help us.
Connect better with people.
Connect better, avoid misunderstandings.
And
just generally be more effective.
More effective communicators.
And that's really what it's all about, right?
That's what it's all about.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive today.
Great discussion.
Yeah, it was a really interesting one.
It was.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
What are some other words that you use frequently?
Ooh.
And could you find more nuanced synonyms for them?
That's a challenge for everyone.
Yeah. So go out there, explore, and keep refining your vocabulary.
Keep learning.
Keep learning. All right, everyone. That's all for today.
Bye.
See you next time.
See you later.
Bye. Ready to unlock some secret code?
A secret code? You mean like ciphers and enigma machines and all that?
Not quite, though it can feel that mysterious sometimes. I'm talking about double meanings in English.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Those tricky words that seem to shapeshift depending on who's saying them and how.
Exactly. And we're going deep on this today, decoding those double meanings with your expert insights. And we've got a fantastic source as our guide, Decoding Double Meanings, Mastering Context in English.
Sounds intriguing. I always love exploring the hidden depths of language.
Me too. And for anyone listening who's ever felt puzzled by a word that seemed to have multiple personalities, this deep dive is for you. We're going to equip you to navigate those tricky situations, where you're not quite sure which meaning of a word is intended.
It's like learning a secret handshake, but for words.
I love that analogy. It's like you're in the know, you've cracked the code.
Exactly. And once you understand how double meanings work, you start to see them everywhere.
So Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's decode these double meanings.
Okay, so first things first, our source makes it clear. Some words in English can wear different hats, like they have multiple meanings depending on the situation.
Right. Think of it like this. One word might be a master of disguise, playing different roles depending on the context. It's all about adaptability.
Okay, I'm picturing a word in a trench coat and sunglasses, switching identities.
Exactly. But how do these words pull off these double duty acts? Well, one way is through literal versus figurative meanings.
Ah, the classic duo. Explain that one for our listeners.
Sure. A literal meaning is like the word's everyday outfit. It's the straightforward dictionary definition. Take the word date, for instance. In its literal sense, it refers to a specific day on the calendar.
Got it. Like, mark your calendars, folks. The deep dive is happening on March 1st.
Precisely. But then we have the figurative meaning, where words get to wear something a little more, shall we say, expressive. They take on a more imaginative, metaphorical sense.
So in the case of date, its figurative outfit would be
A romantic outing, same word, completely different scenario. Now, date evokes images of candlelit dinners and maybe some awkward first date conversations.
Yeah. And that's where things can get tricky, right? Because how do we know which outfit the word is wearing at any given time?
That's where context steps in, like a detective, to crack the case. The surrounding words, the situation, even the tone of voice, all these clues help us decipher the intended meaning.
So our brains are constantly playing detective, sifting through these linguistic clues. And you know what? Speaking of words with multiple personalities, our source brought up a word that immediately made me think of my furry friend at home. Bark.
Ah, yes, bark. A word that can really throw you for a loop if you're not careful.
Exactly. Because on the one hand, it's that sharp sound our canine companions make, but then there's another type of bark entirely.
Right, and this is a prime example of how a word can shapeshift depending on its part of speech, whether it's acting like a noun, a verb, or even an adjective.
So we've got bark as a verb, the action of a dog, shall we say, voicing its opinion.
You could put it that way. But then we have bark as a noun, referring to the tough outer layer of a tree.
Two completely different meanings, but just one word. And I think it's fascinating how we effortlessly switch between these meanings without even realizing it most of the time.
It really highlights the incredible processing power of the human brain, doesn't it? We're constantly analyzing language and context to make sense of things.
It's like our brains are these amazing code-breaking machines.
Absolutely. And you know what's even more interesting is that bark is just the tip of the iceberg. Our source compiled a list of 10 common words with these double meanings, and some of them are pretty surprising.
Oh, I know what you mean. Some of them really caught me off guard. Should we take a look at a couple more from that list? I think our listeners would love to hear some examples.
Let's do it. How about the word jam?
Jam. Ooh, now I'm thinking about a delicious strawberry jam.
Exactly. That's the noun form associated with delicious, fruity spreads. But jam can also be a verb, describing the act of being stuck or trapped.
Oh, right. Like we're in a traffic jam or the printer's jammed again.
Precisely. And isn't it interesting how one word can capture both something enjoyable, like a tasty treat, and something frustrating, like being stuck in traffic?
It's amazing. Same word, completely different vibes. Any other words from the list that you think our listeners would find particularly interesting?
Well, how about the word well? We use it all the time, but I bet most people don't realize it has a double meaning, too.
Good one. I'm curious. Break it down for us.
Okay, so well can be a noun. And in this sense, it refers to a deep hole dug into the ground to access water.
Like the villagers gathered around the well.
Exactly. But well can also be an adverb describing how something is done. For example, she did well in the test.
So we wouldn't say she dug a well in the test, though now that I say that out loud, it's kind of funny.
You see, that's why context is key. It's like having a map to navigate these linguistic twists and turns.
I love that. It's like context is our GPS, guiding us through the maze of double meanings.
Precisely. The more we pay attention to context, the more effectively we can communicate and avoid those, shall we say, awkward mix-ups.
Because nobody wants to accidentally compliment someone's well-digging skills when they were talking about their exam results.
Exactly. So listeners, remember, context is your friend. It's the key to unlocking those double meanings and ensuring smooth communication.
It's like having a secret decoder ring for the English language.
I like that.
Yeah.
A secret decoder ring for understanding words in all their multifaceted glory.
Well said. So as we wrap out this deep dive into double meanings, what's the biggest takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember?
That English is full of surprises. And these double meanings, they're not just random quirks. They add richness and depth to the language.
Absolutely. They invite us to think more deeply about the words we use and how we use them.
And that brings up an interesting question. How many other words in our everyday conversations have these hidden meanings that we might be overlooking?
It's a great question to ponder. Maybe it's time for all of us to put on our detective hats and start exploring.
Indeed. You never know what linguistic treasures you might uncover.
So to all our listeners out there, keep an ear out for those double meanings. You'll be amazed at how many you start noticing.
Yeah.
Until next time, happy decoding. All right, so you guys want to learn about using stronger verbs in your English, huh? Well, you came to the right place.
That's right. Today we're taking a deep dive into a book called Power Verbs, Transform Your English.
And we're going to unpack how these little words, these verbs, can really make your communication more powerful.
And, everyone always talks about strong verbs, but we're going to go a little deeper today.
Right, yeah, beyond the basics, we're going to really explore why these verbs work the way they do.
Exactly. And the cool thing about these power verbs is, well, they're not just about, giving information. They really create a more vivid experience for whoever's listening or reading.
Gotcha. Okay, so give me an example. What makes them so powerful? What are we talking about here?
So the book gives this example of using devour instead of eat.
Okay.
And when you say devour, it engages all your senses. You don't just understand that someone is eating, you can practically hear it.
Oh.
You can picture how enthusiastic they are, and you can almost taste the food.
You really get pulled in.
Yeah, exactly. It just pulls you right into that experience.
Yeah. I was reading a book review the other day. It said, I devoured this book in one sitting.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, that must be one captivating book.
Yeah.
Made me want to read it right then.
I bet, yeah. And it wouldn't have been the same if they had just said, I read the book quickly.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, not the same at all. So it's not just about using a big fancy word. It's about picking the one that really gives that.
Triggers a stronger reaction.
Yeah, exactly. Stronger reaction.
Like you said, yeah.
Okay, so another example.
Sure. So the source talks about the difference between she gave a speech and she delivered a speech.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, it's a small change, but
That's subtle.
delivered makes you think she's authoritative, that she's got a purpose.
Right.
And everyone heard her message.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I never really thought about it that way. I'm starting to see that there's more to it than I thought.
Totally.
It's not just opening up at the source and picking a long word.
No, not at all.
That's about the right word.
Okay, so the book, it gives this whole list of power verbs. How are you supposed to know, which one to pick?
Right. There are so many good ones to choose from.
Yeah.
But the key is, what nuance are you trying to get across? What do you really want to say?
Okay, yeah.
So they have this practice section, and the sentence is, she blank the mystery for the class.
Okay.
So if you want to say the explanation was super clear, everyone got it,
Right.
you might say, she illuminated the mystery for the class.
Oh, okay.
But if it's more about uncovering hidden clues and stuff,
Yeah.
then unraveled might be better.
Oh. So even though they're both strong verbs, it's really about
Right.
what you're trying to.
Yeah, where you're highlighting, yeah.
Okay, I get it. That's where those subtle differences are really important.
So what's the big takeaway here for our listeners?
I'd say, remember, power verbs are tools to make your communication more exciting and effective.
Okay, yeah.
But like any tool, you got to use them carefully.
Right. You got to know how to use them.
Exactly. And think about the impact they'll have.
Okay, so what's our challenge for everyone listening today?
Well, I want you to pay attention to the verbs you use today. Just notice them.
Okay.
Try swapping in a power verb and see how it feels.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Does it change how your message comes across?
I love it. Great advice. Go forth and amplify your English, everyone.
That's right.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to our deep dive into better English fluency. We're going to be looking at some excerpts from 21 Words for English Fluency, a replacement guide, and it's really all about swapping out those blah words with alternatives that pack more punch. It's kind of like a vocabulary upgrade. We're going to uncover why those seemingly small tweaks can make you sound incredibly fluent.
It is fascinating, isn't it? How so many language learners, they hit a wall. They know a lot of words, but their speak still lacks that wow factor. So I think this deep dive is going to equip our listeners to not just know more words, but to choose the ones that create the most impact.
Yeah, so let's unpack why replacing basic words is so important. The source argues that it's not just about sounding fancy, right?
Right. I mean, think of it this way. Basic words are kind of like the foundation of a house. They're essential, but they don't make it unique, right? It's the details, the architectural flourishes that give it personality. And it's very similar when we're talking about vocabulary. Using a richer vocabulary lets you express yourself with more precision and personality. It's about painting a more vivid picture for your listener.
So it's about moving beyond just being understood and towards being truly engaging. The source kicks things off with 7 common words that we use all the time, but maybe we could be using better.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's hear them.
First up, we're saying goodbye to very. It's like the default intensifier, but it doesn't really add much oomph. Instead, the source suggests we try going for words like extremely or incredibly. So instead of saying, I'm very tired, you would say, I'm incredibly tired.
Yes. And you know, it's interesting, the choice between extremely and incredibly. Extremely feels a lot more factual and objective, right? While incredibly conveys a much stronger sense of personal feeling. It's almost like you can't believe how tired you are.
Ooh, that's a good point. It's like choosing the right spice for your dish, right?
Yeah.
They both add heat, but in slightly different ways. What about good? Surely there are more exciting ways to express positivity, right?
Absolutely. So the source suggests we go with amazing, fantastic, or excellent as upgrades. But again, it really depends on what you want to convey. Fantastic has a very bright, almost childlike energy to it. Excellent, on the other hand, feels more refined, more adult, maybe even a bit more reserved in its enthusiasm.
Okay, so if I'm describing a roller coaster, I'd probably go with fantastic.
Yeah.
But if I'm praising someone's work performance, excellent might be a better fit.
Exactly. It's all about matching the word to the tone and the context. Now, on the flip side, how do we move beyond just saying bad when something is, well, not good?
Yeah, bad feels kind of vague, doesn't it? It's like a one-size-fits-all complaint.
Right. And the source gives us options like terrible, awful, or horrible. So awful suggests something that's offensive to your senses, whereas terrible implies something that causes distress or fear. And horrible is even stronger, suggesting something truly repulsive or shocking.
So if I had a truly disgusting meal, horrible would be the word.
Precisely. Now let's talk about size. Instead of big, the source recommends words like huge, massive, or enormous.
Yeah, it's like we're taking big and supersizing it.
Yes. And each of those replacements has a slightly different connotation. Huge is pretty much a general intensifier. Massive emphasizes weight and density, while enormous suggests something overwhelming in scale.
So massive would be perfect for describing, say, a giant boulder, while enormous might be better suited for like a sprawling cityscape.
You got it. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, we're trading in small for words like tiny, petite, or miniature.
Tiny is definitely more evocative than just small, wouldn't you say? It almost makes me think of something delicate and precious.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of using more descriptive language. You can actually evoke specific feelings and images in your listener's mind.
Okay, let's move on to feelings. So the source suggests replacing happy with words like joyful, thrilled, or excited.
Happy is a wonderful feeling, but it can be a bit too general at times. Joyful has a sense of deep contentment and peace, while thrilled implies a surge of excitement and delight. And excited is more outward focused, suggesting eagerness and anticipation.
So if I win a lottery, I'm probably feeling thrilled, but if I'm spending time with loved ones, I might be more joyful.
Exactly. Now, how about replacing sad with more nuanced words?
Yeah, sad can feel a bit flat, especially if you're trying to express something more complex.
Right. And so the source recommends using words like heartbroken, upset, or down. Heartbroken conveys a deep sense of loss and grief, while upset suggests a feeling of distress and agitation. And then down is more subtle. It implies a mild but persistent feeling of sadness.
Interesting. So if I lost my pet, I might say I'm heartbroken, but if I miss a train, I might just be upset.
Exactly. You're starting to see how these seemingly simple word choices can have a big impact on how you express yourself.
Wow, we've already covered 7 words, and I'm feeling like my vocabulary is getting a major upgrade. What stands out to you so far?
I think what's fascinating is that we're not just replacing words, we're exploring the subtle shades of meaning they carry. It's about becoming more aware of the power of language
Wow.
and how it can be used to create a richer, more engaging communication experience.
I completely agree. And this is just the beginning. We're about to dive into the world of verbs, which is where things get really interesting. Okay, so get ready to energize your language. We are moving on to verbs, which the source calls the engines of our sentences. I'm really excited to see how we can replace some common verbs with more dynamic alternatives.
Oh, I think you'll be surprised by how much vibrancy you can inject into your speech just by being more mindful of your verb choices. It's like swapping out a sputtering engine for a high-performance one, you know?
I love that analogy. Okay, let's dive right in. First up, we're going to be looking at replacing say, which feels pretty basic, right?
Yeah, I mean, say is often the default verb that we use when we're reporting speech, but it can be a bit bland, you know. The source suggests alternatives like mention, state, or express. And each of these verbs adds a layer of nuance to how we convey information.
So instead of saying he said he was busy, I could say he mentioned he was busy. Does that really make a difference?
It does. It does. Mention suggests that the information was shared sort of in passing, maybe as part of a larger conversation. State, on the other hand, implies a more formal or deliberate declaration of fact, and express highlights the speaker's feelings or opinions.
Interesting. It's like choosing the right tool for the job,
Yeah.
right? You wouldn't use a hammer to screw in a light bulb.
Exactly. Now, what about get? It seems like we use that for almost everything.
Yeah, I know, right? Get is definitely a workhorse in the English language, but it can be a bit vague.
Absolutely. So the source recommends replacing get with more specific verbs like receive, obtain, or acquire. Okay, so receive implies a passive act of getting something that is given to you. Obtain suggests a more active effort to get something that you want. And then acquire often implies a sense of gaining possession of something valuable or rare.
So if I was gifted a book, I'd say I received a book. But if I won a prize, I might say I obtained a prize.
Precisely. Now, how about we tackle do? It's another verb that we use constantly, but maybe there are more precise ways to express action.
Do feels a bit like a placeholder, doesn't it? It's just filling a gap in the sentence.
Yeah, and it can weaken your writing or your speech. So the source suggests replacing do with verbs like perform, complete, or accomplish. Perform implies carrying out a task with skill and precision, while complete emphasizes finishing something that was started. Accomplish suggests achieving a goal or overcoming an obstacle.
So instead of saying I need to do my homework, I could say I need to complete my homework, which makes it sound more like a defined task with a clear endpoint.
That's right. And it might even motivate you to actually get it done.
Speaking of getting things done, what about make? It's another verb that seems to cover a wide range of actions.
Right. The source suggests replacing make with verbs like create, develop, or produce. Create implies bringing something new into existence. Develop suggests a process of growth and refinement. And then produce often refers to creating something tangible or measurable.
So if I'm baking a cake, I'd say I'm creating a cake. But if I'm working on a new business strategy, I'd say I'm developing a strategy.
Exactly. It's about choosing verbs that actually reflect the specific nature of the action. Now, how about we get moving with go? Any suggestions for replacing this common verb?
Go seems a bit too basic for our sophisticated taste now, doesn't it?
Indeed. The source recommends replacing go with verbs like travel, visit, or head to. Travel suggests a journey, often over a long distance. Visit implies a shorter trip with a specific purpose in mind. And head to is more informal, and it's often used to describe going somewhere specific.
So if I'm planning a vacation, I'd say I'm traveling to Europe. But if I'm just going to the grocery store, I'd say I'm heading to the store.
Exactly. Now let's talk about need, which often comes up when we're talking about requirements or obligations.
Yeah, sometimes need can sound a bit whiny, don't you think? Like you're pleading for something?
Yes, and it doesn't always convey a sense of urgency or importance. So the source suggests replacing need with stronger verbs like require or demand. Require implies a necessary condition or a prerequisite. Demand suggests a very insistent request or a non-negotiable requirement.
Okay, so if I'm talking about a project deadline, I'd say the project requires more time. But if I'm talking about my rights, I might say I demand to be heard.
Exactly. Now let's wrap up this section with think, which is another common verb that we use to express our thoughts and opinions.
Think can feel a bit casual, though, especially if you're trying to sound more authoritative or thoughtful.
You're right. And so the source suggests replacing think with more deliberate verbs like consider, or reflect on. Consider implies weighing different options or perspectives. Reflect on suggests a deeper level of contemplation and analysis.
So instead of saying, I think this is a good idea, I might say, I've considered all the options and I believe this is the best approach.
Exactly. You're demonstrating a more thoughtful and analytical approach to your decision-making.
This has been an incredible journey through the world of verbs. I'm already feeling more confident and articulate just by thinking about these replacements.
And we're not done yet. Next, we'll be tackling those pesky filler words that can weaken our speech. I think we're all guilty of using a few of those.
Oh, absolutely. I know I am. I'm eager to learn how to eliminate them and sound more fluent. Okay, so it's time to polish our speech. Let's get rid of those pesky filler words. I have a feeling this section's going to be really helpful, at least for me.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that. I mean, filler words are those little intruders. They sneak into our sentences. They just kind of clutter up our communication.
Yeah.
They don't add any meaning, any real meaning. And they can make us sound hesitant or unsure of ourselves. But the good news is that we can replace them, with either more powerful pauses or just more meaningful expressions.
I am so ready for a filler-free upgrade. So what's the first offender on our list?
Well, one of the most common culprits is like. And we often use it as a crutch, when we're trying to gather our thoughts or when we want to express some uncertainty. So instead of saying, I was really surprised, try pausing for a moment. You just say, I was really surprised. It just sounds so much more confident and direct.
Yeah, it's amazing how just a small change can make such a big difference. So what other fillers should we be mindful of?
Well, stuff is another word that can weaken our communication. It's just so vague. Instead of saying, I have a lot of stuff to do, try to be more specific. You could say, I have many tasks to complete, or I have a long list of errands to run.
It's like we're decluttering our language, right? Replacing those fuzzy words with clear and concise alternatives. What about thing? I feel like I use that one all the time when I can't think of the right word.
Oh, we've all been there.
Yeah.
But instead of relying on thing, just try to find a more descriptive noun. For example, instead of saying, can you pass me that thing? You could say, can you pass me the remote? Or can you hand me the book?
Right. It's all about being more intentional with our word choices, isn't it? So what about really? It seems like we use that one to emphasize almost everything.
Right, really is an intensifier, but it can lose its power when it's overused. The source suggests replacing it with stronger adverbs like truly, absolutely, or completely. So instead of saying, I really enjoyed the movie, you could say, I absolutely love the movie, which just conveys a much stronger sense of enthusiasm.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. We're replacing those weak, generic words with alternatives that are much more precise, much more impactful. So what about okay and just? Those seem to pop up in my conversations all the time.
Well, okay can be a really useful word, for expressing agreement or acknowledging something. But it can also become a filler word if we just use it too often. So instead of saying, okay, I'll do it later, you could try, sure, I'll take care of it later, or no problem, I'll get to it soon.
And what about just? It's like a little verbal tick that just sneaks into my sentences.
Yeah, just is often used to sort of downplay something or to make it seem less important. But sometimes we actually want to convey a sense of importance or urgency. So instead of saying, I just need a few minutes, you could say, I need a few minutes of your time, or I only need a few minutes.
It's amazing how those small tweaks in word choice can really shift the entire tone of the sentence. So any other fillers that we need to address before we wrap up?
Yes, let's talk about the phrase a lot. It's another one of those vague expressions that can weaken our communication. So instead of saying, I have a lot of work to do, try using more descriptive quantifiers, like a great deal of, or a significant amount of, or even a mountain of if you're feeling overwhelmed.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I think I can speak for both of us when I say I'm realizing that becoming more fluent isn't just about, learning more words. It's also about choosing the right words and using them effectively.
I completely agree. It's about being mindful of the words we use and how they impact our listeners. So, by replacing common words with stronger, more nuanced alternatives, we can express ourselves with greater clarity, confidence, and impact.
And to our listener, we really encourage you to take what you've learned today and start experimenting with these word replacements in your own conversations. Just pay attention to how they make you feel and how others respond to you.
Yeah. And as you continue on your journey of language learning, just remember that fluency is an ongoing process. The more you practice using a richer vocabulary, the more natural it will become. And who knows, you might even inspire others to upgrade their language as well.
That's a fantastic point. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the power of words. And until next time, keep those vocabularies expanding.
Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're looking into something really interesting. It's hidden fluency. Those signs that you're actually way better at English than you think.
That's a good one.
We found this article and it's called 14 Signs You're More Fluent in English Than You Think. And honestly, some of these are pretty surprising. I had no idea.
Yeah, we always think of fluency as this perfect thing, but this article looks at it differently.
Yeah.
Like how well you actually communicate, not just, perfect grammar and all that.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. It's like real world stuff, not just textbook rules.
Yeah.
So, where do we even start with these 14 signs?
Well, a bunch of them are kind of connected, so we can group them up. Like, have you ever watched a movie, no subtitles or anything, and you still got what was going on, even if you didn't get every single word?
All the time. Wait, does that actually mean something about fluency? The article says it's like you're understanding the context, which is super important for communication. Like you're picking up on clues, not just the words themselves.
Yeah.
The situation, the other people, how they're talking.
Right. That makes sense. It's kind of like when someone uses a word you don't know, but you figure it out from the rest of what they're saying.
Exactly. Or even reading an article with some tough vocabulary. You get the main idea without looking up everything. The article says that's another sign.
So it's not about knowing every word, it's how you use the ones you do know.
Yeah. And this connects to another interesting thing. As you get more fluent, you might not be translating everything in your head anymore.
What? Really? I don't even realize I'm doing that.
It gets so automatic you don't notice. Like ordering food at a restaurant. Are you translating the whole menu before you talk?
No way. I just look and order what I want.
See? That probably means you're thinking in English already, which is like a big fluency thing.
Wow, this is making me rethink my whole English level. I didn't know these little things. Could be such a big deal.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it gets even cooler. The article says even how you think in English changes. Like when you're planning stuff or making sentences in your head.
Instead of thinking it in my own language first, I just think it in English now.
Exactly. It means you're so comfortable with it. It's becoming natural.
This is awesome. I'm already seeing these signs in myself. What else does the article talk about?
Well, we can't forget about idioms and slang. Right?
Oh, I love a good idiom. They're so fun.
And the article says understanding and using them shows you really get the nuances of English. It's not just the words, it's the culture and the meaning behind them.
Yeah, like break the ice doesn't mean literally breaking ice. It means making things more relaxed, starting the conversation.
Exactly. And being able to not just understand, but USE those idioms. Shows you're going way beyond basic stuff. It's like a deeper level.
Okay, so we got understanding the situation thinking in English and using idioms and slang. 3 hidden signs already. What's next?
Let's get into how we actually talk in English. This might surprise you. The article says not overthinking your answers and even using filler words can actually be signs of fluency.
Wait, what? I thought filler words were bad,
It's totally natural, especially for native speakers. Think about it. When you chat with a friend, do you plan every word before you say it?
No way. It's all about the flow.
Right. So if you can answer naturally without overthinking it, and maybe throw in some ums and likes, it could mean you're comfortable, like a native speaker.
That's such a relief. I always feel bad when I use those words, but maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Maybe not. But of course, it's all about balance. They should help your flow, not hurt it.
Right. That makes sense. What else about conversations does the article talk about?
This is interesting. It gets into humor and abstract topics. Those can be hard, even for people who are pretty fluent.
Oh yeah, I remember struggling with English humor. I never got the jokes.
Well, think about it. Humor isn't just the words. It's the culture, the tone, all these little things. So understanding it means you're fluent on a deeper level.
And what about abstract topics, like philosophy and stuff?
The article says being able to talk about those big ideas means you have really good skills. It's not just describing things.
Yeah.
It's expressing complex thoughts.
That makes sense. When you're talking about something abstract, you have to be more careful with your words.
Exactly. And you know what? They even have a joke example in the article.
Oh, a joke. I love jokes. Tell me.
Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts.
I get it. Skeletons don't have guts, so they can't fight. It's funny because guts means courage, too.
Exactly. You understood the joke perfectly, which means you're getting those subtle things. It's not just knowing the words, it's understanding how they're used in a funny way.
Wow, I'm seeing fluency in a whole new light. We talked about context thinking in English. Idioms, slang filler, words, humor, abstract topics. So much already. What else is there?
There's more. The article talks about writing, understanding different accents, and most importantly, having the confidence to just go for it. But I think that's a lot for now. Maybe we let it all sink in and come back for the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. This is giving me so much to think about. Can't wait for the next part. Okay, we're back and ready for more hidden fluency. My mind is still blown from all those signs we talked about.
Yeah, there's a lot more. We're going through this article. 14 signs you're more fluent in English than you think. And we've got some really cool stuff to cover still.
Hit me with it. What else is there?
Well, we were talking about communication, right? Like those moments when things get tricky.
You mean like when you're trying to explain something and the other person just doesn't get it?
Exactly. The article says even those situations can show how fluent you are. If you can handle misunderstandings without freaking out, that's a good sign.
So it's not just about speaking perfectly. It's about knowing how to fix things when you need to.
Yeah. They say it's about being able to rephrase things, explain it differently, maybe use simpler words if they're not understanding you. It's all about keeping the conversation going.
That's true. I used to get so nervous when I had to explain myself. But I've gotten better at it over time. Maybe that's a fluency thing too.
It probably is. The more fluent you are, the more confident you feel, even when things don't go perfectly.
So handling misunderstandings, that's a sign of fluency. Interesting. What else is there about communication?
The article talks about changing your tone depending on who you're talking to.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't talk to your boss the same way you talk to your friend.
Exactly. Being able to change your tone, how you say things, your words, that shows you really get how to communicate in different situations.
It's like reading the room and knowing how to act right.
Yeah. It's being socially smart with the language. Yeah. They even give examples in the article, like how you would greet a friend versus how you would start a work meeting.
It's crazy how those little things make such a difference. Okay, so far we've got understanding the situation, thinking in English, idioms, slang, talking naturally with those filler words, understanding humor, abstract topics, handling misunderstandings, and changing our tone. Did I miss anything?
Wow, you got it all. We're making good progress through these 14 signs, but we're not done yet. The article also talks about writing in English, understanding different accents, and the most important thing, having the confidence to just use your English.
Okay, let's talk writing. I think a lot of people get more nervous about writing than speaking. It feels so much more serious.
I get it. Writing is different. But the article says if you can write emails or messages naturally, without checking every grammar rule, that's actually a big deal.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself clearly.
Exactly. They give this example of a casual email to a coworker. Hi, Sarah. Just following up on the report. Let me know if you need anything else. Single to the point, gets the job done.
I like that. It's not about trying to sound super fancy. It's about using writing to communicate.
Right. Which brings us to understanding different accents. That can be tough.
Oh, yeah. When I first started watching British TV shows, I needed subtitles to understand anything.
That happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But being able to understand different accents, whether it's British, American, Australian, whatever, it shows you have really good listening skills.
So it's not just about speaking, it's about understanding all the different ways people say it.
Yeah. It's a super useful skill, especially these days when we talk to people from all over the world. The article even talks about watching shows like Sherlock with those British accents, or Friends with the American accents, and being able to understand them without a problem.
You know what? Now that you mention it, I can watch those shows without subtitles now. Maybe I am more fluent than I thought.
That's awesome. Sounds like you're improving without even realizing it.
And that brings us to the last sign we'll talk about today, confidence. This one's really important.
Well, definitely. I think a lot of people are scared to speak English because they don't feel confident. That's why this article is so good. It says fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about being comfortable enough to use your English, even if you make mistakes sometimes.
That makes me feel better. It's okay to mess up a little as long as you're communicating right.
Right. They have this example of someone correcting themselves while they're talking. Like yesterday I go to the park. I just went to the park. The point is they fixed the mistake and kept going.
It's like it's okay to be human. We're not robots. Fluency is about connecting with people.
Exactly. It's about using English to build relationships, share ideas, and experience the world.
This whole conversation has been so eye-opening, but it feels like we've only scratched the surface.
There's definitely more to talk about. But I think it's good to let all this sink in for a bit. And then we can come back for the last part of our deep dive and wrap it all up.
That sounds like a plan. I can't wait to see what else we uncover. All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into hidden fluency.
It's amazing how much we learned about how we use English, isn't it?
I know. It's like we've been fluent all along, but we didn't even realize it. So now what? What do we do with all this new information?
Well, that's where the last part of this article gets really interesting. It's not just about knowing the signs. It's about how we think about our fluency, like shifting our mindset from what we're bad at to what we're good at.
I like that. So what kind of advice do they give?
First, they say to just think about your journey with English. Like, where did you start and how far have you come? All those milestones.
Yeah, it's so easy to forget about all the progress we've made. We're always focused on what's next.
I know. But celebrating those wins, even the small ones, can really help us keep going. The article also says to look for chances to use English in real life, like talking to friends, watching movies, reading stuff, and notice how much you need help.
So it's about putting ourselves out there and just using the language.
Exactly. The more you do it, the more you'll realize you can actually do it. You can talk to people, understand things, express yourself. It's about focusing on what you can do.
I love that. It takes the pressure off of being perfect.
Right. And even celebrating those little wins is important. Like, if you understood a movie without subtitles, or explained something complicated in English, or had a good conversation with a native speaker, those are all wins.
It's like giving ourselves credit for how much we've learned.
Yeah. And this next one is super important. Don't compare yourself to others.
Oh, that's so hard, though. It's easy to look at other people and feel bad.
I know it's tempting. But everyone learns differently. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. The article says to focus on your journey and your goals.
That's good advice. It's like we're all running our own race.
Exactly. And fluency isn't about reaching some finish line. It's about using English to connect with people, share your thoughts, and see the world.
This whole deep dive has been so cool. I feel like I understand fluency in a totally new way.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
And that's the message I want you to take away. Fluency is a journey. It's about always learning and growing, but it's also about appreciating how far you've come already.
I like that. Before we finish, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Good idea.
Yeah.
How about this? What's one thing about your English fluency that you want to work on?
That's a great question. It makes people think about what they're good at and what they want to improve.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer. Maybe it's idioms or feeling more confident or understanding different accents. It's all about choosing your own path.
So true. Well, that's it for our deep dive into hidden fluency. Thanks for joining us. We hope you learned something new about your own English skills.
And remember, fluency is a journey, not a destination. Keep practicing and keep celebrating your wins.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into the English-speaking job market today.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Think of this deep dive like your secret weapon for decoding all that tricky job hunting lingo.
I like it.
We've got some great source material lined up that's basically a crash course on everything from resumes to interviews to all that good stuff.
It's really fascinating, actually. What I found really interesting about these sources is that they don't just define the terms.
Right.
They really get into the strategy behind them, you know?
Oh, that's
It's like they've taken all the best advice from career coaches and hiring managers and distilled it all down into these really actionable tips.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Resumes.
Oh,
Right? Everyone's favorite topic, right?
the bane of our existence.
I know. But seriously, our source material highlights something really crucial here.
Okay.
The power of strong action verbs.
Yes.
And I don't just mean like using managed instead of did. It's about getting way more specific and impactful with your word choices.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's about thinking about, okay, if you are a software developer, instead of saying developed a website, you could say led a team of 5 to develop a user-friendly website that increased customer engagement by 20%.
Whoa.
See the difference?
Okay, yeah. That's way more powerful.
Right.
It's not just about what you did.
Yeah,
It's about the impact you made.
exactly. And that's what employers want to see, results. So I have a challenge for everyone listening.
Ooh, I like a challenge.
Pull up your own resume.
Okay.
Take a look at those verbs.
All right, I'm doing it right now.
Are they doing your skills justice?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Could you swap them out for something stronger, something that really showcases your accomplishments?
I love that little homework assignment.
There you go.
All right, so you've got your resume packed with power verbs.
Check.
Now you need a cover letter to really seal the deal.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people get stuck. But our source material breaks down the purpose and structure in a way that's super clear and actually kind of inspiring.
It is.
Yeah.
You know what I found really interesting here is that the source emphasizes how a cover letter is your chance to show your personality.
Okay.
Your resume is all facts and figures, but the cover letter is where you can let your passion and enthusiasm shine through. It's where you connect with the employer on a human level.
So it's not just a summary of your resume. It's almost like a mini story about why you're the perfect fit.
Precisely.
For this specific role.
Yes. And you know what else I found really helpful?
What's that?
The source material talks about the importance of the call to action in the closing paragraph.
Oh.
It's not just about saying thanks for your time.
Yeah.
It's about proactively expressing your eagerness to move forward in the process.
Okay, so it's like, hey, I'm ready for that interview. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got the killer resume and a compelling cover letter.
We're doing good.
Now we need to find the right jobs to apply for.
All right, the fun part.
Yeah. So our source material dives into decoding job postings.
Okay.
Like how to read between the lines and figure out what employers are really looking for.
Yes, and this is where things get strategic.
Ooh, I like it.
The source material gives this great tip about using keywords from the job posting to tailor your resume and cover letter.
Oh, that's smart.
It's about speaking their language, showing them that you understand their needs and that you've done your homework.
It makes sense if you're an employer and you see a resume that's clearly tailored to your specific job posting, shows that the applicant is serious and invested.
Absolutely. And it's not just about keywords.
Okay.
It's about understanding the underlying problems that the company's trying to solve. What are their pain points?
Right.
How can your skills and experience help them overcome those challenges?
Ooh.
If you can articulate that
Yeah.
in your application materials, you'll definitely stand out.
That's such a good point. Okay, let's move on to some of the more foundational elements
Yes.
of the job application process.
Okay.
Qualifications, experience, and references.
The classics.
I know our source material covers the basics here, but it also includes a really important insider tip about references
Oh, yes.
that I think a lot of people overlook.
This is one of those things that seems obvious, but it's crucial.
Oh, really?
Always get permission before listing someone as a reference. Not only is it common courtesy,
Okay.
but it also gives your reference a chance to prepare
Oh, that's good.
and make sure they're comfortable speaking about your qualifications.
Yeah, you don't want to catch someone off guard
Exactly.
and potentially like sabotage your chances.
Right. It's much better to have a few enthusiastic references who are ready to sing your praises
Yes.
than a long list of people who are hesitant or unprepared.
Okay, so you've submitted your application
Fingers crossed.
and you get the call for an interview.
Yay.
Exciting but nerve-wracking, right?
Oh, for sure.
Our source material acknowledges this and really emphasizes the importance of preparation.
Absolutely.
And they offer some really practical advice
Okay.
for tackling one of the most common interview questions.
Which is?
Tell me about yourself.
Oh,
I know this is where so many people stumble,
I know I do.
but it's actually a golden opportunity to make a strong first impression.
It is.
Yeah, I always find myself like fumbling through that one.
Me too.
So what's the secret?
The key is to craft a concise and engaging response that highlights your relevant skills and experience.
Okay.
And then this is the crucial part, connects them back to the specific role you're interviewing for. You're not just reciting your resume.
Right.
You're telling a story that demonstrates why you're the perfect fit for this particular job.
It's like you're saying, here's who I am, here's what I'm good at, and here's how I can contribute to your team.
Exactly.
I like it.
And you know what else I found helpful?
Tell me.
The source material suggests practicing your response out loud,
Oh?
even recording yourself,
Ooh, that's a good idea.
so you can hear how you sound.
Yeah.
You want to come across as confident and enthusiastic,
Right.
not robotic or rehearsed.
That's such good advice.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people focus on what they're going to say, but forget about how they're going to say it.
Totally. And remember, an interview is a two-way street.
That's true.
It's not just about answering their questions. It's about asking your own questions.
Right.
To get a feel for the company culture
Yeah.
and whether it's a good fit for you.
That's a great reminder.
So we've talked about resumes, cover letters, and interviews.
We are on a roll.
Now let's dive into the world of networking.
All right, let's do it.
Our source material defines it as building relationships to discover job opportunities.
Okay.
It's about making connections and expanding your professional circle.
I like that.
But what's really interesting here is that the source goes beyond the traditional idea of networking
Okay.
at formal events.
Right.
They talk about the importance of building relationships online.
Oh, like LinkedIn.
Exactly, through platforms like LinkedIn and even through casual conversations with people in your field.
Wow. I love that. It's like networking doesn't have to be this stuffy, formal thing.
Yeah.
It can happen organically through genuine interactions.
Absolutely. And, sometimes the most unexpected connections can lead to the most amazing opportunities.
That's so true. Okay, before we move on, I want to touch on a topic
Yes.
that's often a bit awkward.
Uh-oh.
Perks and pay.
The money talk.
I know it's important to be prepared to discuss salary expectations during the interview process.
It is.
But how do you even approach that conversation?
Well, our source material has some excellent advice on this.
Okay, good.
It emphasizes the importance of researching average salaries
Okay.
for similar roles in your location.
That makes sense.
Knowledge is power when it comes to negotiation.
Right.
You need to know your worth and be able to articulate it confidently.
You don't want to undersell yourself or price yourself out of the running.
Exactly. And it's not just about salary.
All right.
It's about understanding the entire compensation package, benefits, vacation time, professional development opportunities.
All that good stuff.
All of it.
Okay, this is all great information.
I know, right?
But I'm curious, what about different work styles?
Oh, yeah.
Full-time, part-time, freelance contract work.
It's a whole new world out there.
There's so many options these days.
You're absolutely right. And our source material actually does a fantastic job of breaking down these different work styles.
Okay.
And encouraging you to think about which one aligns best with your lifestyle and career goals.
That's so important. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's about finding the work style that allows you to thrive both professionally and personally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what's really fascinating is that the traditional 9-to-5 office job is becoming less and less common.
It's true.
More and more people are opting for remote work, flexible schedules, and even starting their own businesses.
I love to see it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part.
We have.
We've talked about crafting a powerful resume,
Check.
writing a compelling cover letter,
Sure.
acing that interview,
Check.
networking like a pro,
Check.
and even navigating the tricky waters of salary negotiation and work style options.
We did it.
But there's so much more to explore.
I know. In part 2, we're going to dive even deeper into the English-speaking job market.
Ooh, exciting.
We'll tackle those subtle but oh so important workplace dynamics,
Okay.
cultural nuances, and communication styles that can really make or break your success.
Can't wait. Welcome back. So we just finished talking about finding the right work style.
Yeah.
But actually landing the job is just the first step.
Right.
Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of what it's like to navigate the English-speaking workplace.
Okay.
And I gotta say, some of these source materials are giving me flashbacks
Really?
to my first office job.
Ooh.
Good times, mostly.
That's good.
It's like there's this whole hidden curriculum
Totally.
that no one tells you about.
Right.
You learn the job description, sure.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole other layer
Yeah.
of workplace culture, unspoken rules, communication styles.
Oh, yeah.
It can be a lot to figure out.
Totally. And our sources don't just skim the surface here.
No.
They get into some really interesting and sometimes awkward aspects of office life.
Okay. Give me an example.
Okay, like, remember that whole thing about probation periods? I always thought that was just paperwork stuff.
Right. But the source material we have really digs into the strategy behind it.
Okay.
It points out that probation periods are a chance for both the employer and the employee to assess if it's a good fit.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's not just about keeping your head down and doing your work.
Okay.
It's about actively demonstrating your value and exceeding expectations.
Okay. That's a good spin on it.
Yeah.
View it as a proving ground.
Not just a waiting period.
Exactly.
Speaking of proving yourself,
Yeah.
our sources also cover job descriptions,
Okay.
but in a way I hadn't really thought of before.
What's that?
What I found fascinating here is they emphasize how job descriptions are often just the starting point.
Oh, interesting.
As you settle into a role,
Yeah.
your responsibilities might evolve.
Right.
You might take on new projects or even find yourself collaborating with different teams.
Ooh.
So it's not about being confined by that job description,
Okay.
but being open to growth and taking on new challenges.
Exactly. And the sources even tie this back to the idea of promotions, suggesting that going above and beyond your initial job description,
Oh, wow.
can actually position you really well for advancement.
Okay, so it's like always be looking for ways to add value.
Yes.
Even if it's outside the strict lines of your job description.
Yeah.
But how do you balance that with, you know, not burning yourself out?
Right, that's important.
Yeah. Our sources talk a lot about work-life balance.
Yes.
Which feels super relevant these days.
It's a hot topic, and the sources highlight that it's not just about clocking out at 5 p.m. either.
Right.
It's about setting boundaries, prioritizing your well-being, and making sure you have time for things you enjoy outside of work.
You know, I think it's also about recognizing that everyone's definition of balance is different.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
That's a great point. And the sources actually suggest having open conversations with your manager or team about your individual needs and preferences.
Yeah.
It's about finding a balance that works for both you and the company.
Okay, so we've talked about navigating your role within a company.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the people and, dare I say, the drama. I mean, our sources get real about office politics.
It's one of those topics people kind of dance around, but it's definitely a reality in most workplaces. What I found really helpful is that the sources break down office politics into a few key elements.
Like what?
Well, they talk about understanding the informal networks and relationships within the company. Who are the key influencers? Who are the decision makers? And how do those dynamics actually play out?
So it's not about being gossipy or manipulative.
No.
It's about being aware of the power structures.
Right.
And navigating them in a way that's both ethical and effective.
Exactly. And it also ties back to something we talked about earlier. Networking, the stronger your relationships are within the company, the better equipped you'll be to navigate those sometimes choppy political waters.
Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of navigating.
Yes.
Our sources also get into something that can be really tricky. Especially in a globalized world, and that's cultural nuances.
Right, like what flies in one culture might be a major faux pas in another.
Exactly. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The sources don't just provide a list of do's and don'ts.
Right.
They encourage you to approach cultural differences with curiosity and respect.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like instead of assuming you know what's appropriate, ask questions, observe how others interact.
Right.
And be willing to adapt your communication style.
Absolutely. And it's not just about avoiding offense. It's about building trust and understanding across cultural boundaries.
Okay, so we've talked about navigating office politics.
Yes.
And cultural nuances.
We have.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of communication itself.
All right.
Our sources are full of vocabulary related to workplace conversations, meetings, and emails.
It's a lot.
I know. What's interesting is they don't just define the terms.
Okay.
They give you tips for using them effectively.
Ooh.
Like, for example, they talk about the importance of active listening.
Yes.
In meetings.
It's so important.
It's not just about hearing what's being said. It's about engaging with the ideas, asking clarifying questions, and really demonstrating that you're paying attention.
Right. So like nodding and saying, every once in a while isn't going to cut it.
Not exactly.
Active listening is about being present and engaged, both verbally and non-verbally.
Okay.
It's about making eye contact, taking notes, and even summarizing what you've heard to make sure you understand correctly.
Got it. Active listening.
Check.
What else do we need to know about communication?
Well, the sources also talk about the importance of giving and receiving feedback effectively.
Okay, feedback.
It's not just about praising good work or pointing out mistakes. It's about providing constructive criticism that helps people grow and develop.
Okay, I think we all know how important that is.
Yes.
But it can be so tricky to do well.
It is, and the sources acknowledge that they recommend focusing on specific behaviors, not personality traits.
Okay.
And framing feedback in a way that's solution-oriented.
So it's not about blaming or shaming. It's about helping people improve.
Exactly.
That's a really good distinction, and I think it ties into the whole idea of creating a positive and supportive work environment.
Yeah.
Which, let's be honest, can be tough sometimes.
It can, but our sources have some great insights.
Oh, good.
On fostering a healthy workplace culture. They talk about the importance of clear communication, mutual respect, and a sense of shared purpose.
So, like, it's not just about being friendly.
Right.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels valued and respected.
Yeah.
And where they can contribute their best work.
Exactly. And it also ties into something we touched on earlier.
What's that?
Teamwork. The sources really emphasize the importance of collaboration,
Okay.
both within teams and across departments.
I like that.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute, and that working together is essential for achieving shared goals.
Right. So we've talked about navigating workplace dynamics.
Yes.
Cultural nuances, communication styles, feedback, and teamwork. Is there anything else we need to know before we venture out into the wilds
Oh, I like that.
of the English-speaking workplace?
Well, there's one more topic our sources highlight that I think is really important, and that's mentorship.
Okay. Mentorship.
They emphasize the value of having a more experienced person
Yeah.
who can offer guidance, support, and insights as you navigate your career.
I've heard about that, but I always thought it was something you had to, formally apply for.
It can be, but the sources suggest that mentorship can also happen organically
Oh, okay.
through relationships you build within your company or even within your professional network.
So it's like be open to learning from people who have more experience than you.
Right.
And don't be afraid to ask for advice or guidance.
Exactly. And it goes both ways.
Oh, that's a good point.
As you gain experience, you can also mentor others and share your knowledge and insights.
That's a great point. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part.
We have.
We've talked about navigating workplace dynamics, cultural nuances, communication styles, feedback, teamwork, and even mentorship.
We're really getting into the nuances of what it takes to thrive
I know.
in the English-speaking job market.
We are.
But there's still more to explore in part 3. We're going to dive even deeper into those sometimes unspoken rules of workplace etiquette,
Ooh.
those subtle but oh so important cues
Yeah,
that can make all the difference in how you're perceived.
can't wait.
Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the English-speaking job market.
Ooh, the grand finale.
I know we've covered so much ground already. Resumes, interviews, networking, office dynamics, you name it.
All the things.
But there's one last layer we need to explore,
Okay, I'm intrigued.
and it's all about those unspoken rules
Oh,
of workplace etiquette.
the do's and don'ts.
Exactly, because let's be honest, sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference.
It's true.
And our source material gets in some really interesting nuances here,
Okay.
especially around email etiquette.
Oh, yeah, email, the double-edged sword of workplace communication.
You can say that again.
It's so convenient, but it's also so easy to make a mistake
Right.
that can damage your professional image.
So true. I remember this one time I accidentally replied all to an email that was, let's just say, not meant for everyone's eyes.
Oof, we've all been there.
Not my proudest moment.
But the good news is
Our
sources offer some really helpful tips for avoiding those email faux pas.
Okay, good.
Like, for example, they emphasize the importance of starting with a professional salutation.
Right.
Dear Mr. or Mrs. last name is always a safe bet,
Yeah.
unless you're on a first name basis with the person.
Right. And even then, it's probably best to err on the side of formality,
Yeah.
at least until you get a sense of the company culture.
Exactly. And the sources also talk about keeping your emails concise and to the point.
Oh.
No one wants to wade through a wall of text.
So like bullet points are our friends.
Absolutely. And avoid using slang
Great.
emojis or excessive exclamation points.
Voted.
You want to project an image of competence and professionalism.
And proofread.
Yes.
Typos and grammatical errors
The worst.
can make you look careless and unprofessional.
So true. Okay, so we've mastered the art of email.
We're on a roll.
Now let's talk about another potential minefield.
Okay.
Meeting etiquette.
Ooh, yes. Meetings, love them or hate them, they're a part of almost every job.
It's true.
And our sources highlight some key things to keep in mind,
Like what?
like punctuality.
Yes.
Arriving on time shows respect for everyone's time and demonstrates your professionalism.
And I think it also shows that you're organized and prepared, which is always a good look.
Right. And once you're in the meeting,
Yeah.
the sources emphasize the importance of active participation.
Okay.
Contribute to the discussion, ask clarifying questions, and offer your insights
Yes.
when appropriate.
But also know when to listen.
Yeah.
Don't dominate the conversation or interrupt others.
It's all about balance.
It's about finding that balance between being engaged and being respectful of others.
And one more thing, put those phones away.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're expecting an urgent call, it's incredibly disrespectful
It is.
to be scrolling through social media or texting during a meeting.
It's like you're saying, I'm not really interested in what you have to say.
Okay, so we've talked about email etiquette, and meeting etiquette.
Yeah, check.
Now let's get into something a little more juicy.
Ooh, tell me more.
Our sources actually touch on the topic of workplace gossip.
Ah, yes, the water cooler whispers. It's inevitable in any workplace.
It really is.
But it's definitely something to navigate carefully.
Because even if you're not the one spreading the gossip,
Yeah,
just listening to it can make you complicit.
that's true. And the sources recommend resisting the temptation to engage.
Okay.
In negative gossip, it can damage relationships and create a toxic work environment.
Instead, try to steer the conversation
Yes.
towards more positive topics. Or, if you feel uncomfortable, politely excuse yourself.
And remember, what you say about others reflects on you. It's always best to err on the side of discretion and kindness.
Okay, gossip averted.
He did it.
Now let's talk about something that's essential for success
Yeah.
in any workplace,
Mm-hmm.
but especially in an English-speaking environment. Conflict resolution.
Oh, this is where those communication skills we talked about earlier really come into play.
Yeah.
The sources emphasize approaching conflict
Okay.
with a calm and respectful attitude.
Because getting defensive or emotional is only going to escalate the situation.
Exactly. The key is to listen actively to the other person's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Try to find common ground.
Okay.
And focus on finding a solution that benefits everyone involved.
Avoid personal attacks and emotional outbursts.
Yes.
Remember, it's about addressing the issue, not the person.
And if you can't resolve the conflict on your own,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to involve a neutral third party like a manager or HR representative.
Okay, conflict resolved. We're on a roll.
I know, right?
Now let's touch on one final, but incredibly important
Hit me with it.
aspect of workplace etiquette,
All right.
cultural sensitivity.
This is especially crucial in today's diverse workplaces.
Yeah.
It's about being aware and respectful of different cultural norms, values, and communication styles.
Like, for example, in some cultures, direct eye contact is considered a sign of respect, while in others it can be seen as aggressive or confrontational.
Exactly. And there are so many other nuances to be aware of personal space humor, even the way you give and receive gifts.
So it's really about being mindful during
Yeah.
your research and being willing to adapt your behavior to different cultural contexts.
And if you're ever unsure about something, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
It's better to clarify than to unintentionally offend someone.
That's a great point. Cultural sensitivity is really about fostering an inclusive and respectful work environment
Absolutely.
where everyone feels valued and respected.
Wow, we've covered a ton of ground
We really have,
in this deep dive.
from crafting that perfect resume.
When mastering the art of workplace etiquette,
We've given you a comprehensive toolkit for navigating the English-speaking job market.
we did it.
Remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
So true.
Stay curious, keep learning,
Mm-hmm.
and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yes. And most importantly, believe in yourself and your abilities.
Now, before we sign off, we'd love to hear from you. What are some of the most interesting or confusing workplace scenarios you've encountered?
Ooh, good question.
Share your stories and insights with us. We're all ears.
Until next time, happy job hunting. All right, so we're diving in something pretty cool today. We're talking about spicing up everyday conversations. You've given us this list of really interesting words.
And it seems like you're looking to move past the basic vocabulary. Find those real gems.
Yeah, the gems that really capture a feeling.
Exactly. It's not about being pretentious, but it's about really wielding language in a more intentional way.
Like you want to use these words and not sound like you're giving a lecture.
Yeah.
Exactly. You want them to flow naturally. So the piece we're going to dive into is called 11 Most Useful Advanced Words for Daily Conversation You Probably Never Hear Yet.
Okay.
Which is a mouthful, but I think this is going to be fun.
It's a great title.
So first word, serendipity. I just love this word.
Yeah.
It's not just luck, it's luck that brings something good.
Right. It's that good luck.
Yeah. So I remember...
You had a serendipitous moment?
I did, actually. I was completely lost in a new city and, hopelessly lost.
Oh. And I bet that wrong turn
Yeah.
led to something fantastic. I stumbled upon this hidden courtyard, and there was this tiny cafe with like the aroma of fresh pastries, live music, the most charming atmosphere. I never would have found it if I hadn't gotten lost.
Well, that's the thing about serendipity, isn't it? It's about being open to the unexpected, recognizing opportunity when it presents itself, even if it's like a detour, like a conversation. Sometimes the most interesting parts of conversations are when you go off script a little bit.
So it's not just about like stumbling onto something good. It's recognizing the potential.
Yeah. Recognizing the potential. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so let's move on from serendipity to quirk, which I think we all have.
Oh, yeah.
And we love them about people.
Little things that make us unique. Those endearing oddities. Not weird, just endearing,
The source actually mentioned humming while working.
Oh, yeah, like a little background music. I love it.
Yeah, I do that, and I never thought of it as a quirk.
We don't see our own quirks, right?
They're just part of us.
Yeah.
But other people notice them, and they think, oh, that's so-and-so,
Yeah. It's like a friend that always has to have their coffee a certain way, or a colleague that organizes their desk meticulously.
They could even be a conversation starter.
Right.
Like imagine someone noticing you humming, and they go, oh, you hum while you work. Me too.
Yeah.
What's your go-to tune?
Yeah. There's a connection.
Totally.
Okay. Now, on the flip side of that, we've got oblivious. We've all been there where we're just completely unaware of something obvious.
And it can be hilarious.
Right.
As long as it's not too embarrassing.
Okay, so I'm going to share one. I once walked right past a friend on the street because I was engrossed in a podcast.
Uh-oh.
And they had to chase me down the block,
no.
waving and shouting my name. Talk about feeling oblivious.
I mean, it's a funny anecdote, but it reminds us that we're not always as aware of our surroundings as we think, right?
But maybe that's a good thing sometimes.
How so?
Like maybe obliviousness lets us focus on what's important to us, like tune out distractions.
That's interesting. So it's almost like a superpower, right? The ability to really hone in and block out everything else.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's move from obliviousness to something much more positive, altruistic. And I think this word really speaks to like a genuine concern for others.
Yeah, it's about going beyond just simple acts of kindness, but really making an effort to benefit others, even if it costs you something.
And I think it's important to distinguish true altruism from actions that appear selfless.
Yes.
But maybe have ulterior motives.
Yeah.
Like someone might donate to a charity for the tax benefits rather than out of pure generosity.
It's about the intention.
Yeah.
It's not just the action, but the reason behind it.
And it reminds me of the debate about whether true altruism even exists.
Oh, is there such a thing as pure selflessness?
Right.
That's a big question.
But regardless, I think striving for altruism makes us more empathetic and compassionate.
I agree with that. Totally.
Okay. Let's shift gears and talk about nonchalant.
Ooh. Projecting that cool confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about appearing calm and relaxed, even in situations that might make others anxious. It's like saying, I've got this, without actually having to say it.
It's like gliding through a crowded room unfazed by the chaos around you.
Yeah, I like that.
Effortlessly cool.
But it can't be arrogance.
Right.
It can't be indifference. It's this balance between being composed, but still engaged.
So it's not being aloof.
That's a great distinction, yeah.
Because aloofness creates distance.
It does. But nonchalance, when it's done well, can actually be quite charming. It's magnetic,
So how do you walk that line? How do you project nonchalance without coming across as dismissive or uncaring?
I think it's about being present, engaged, responsive, but with that air of composure. Like a dancer who makes those difficult steps look effortless.
Oh, okay. So you're still putting in the effort.
Yes, you are.
But you make it look easy.
Looks effortless, exactly.
Well, okay. I'm starting to get this.
Yeah.
But, we can't always be nonchalant. Sometimes life throws us curveballs and we end up feeling completely flustered.
Yeah, flustered. Like that feeling of being caught off guard, a little bit embarrassed, definitely not in control.
Right. Those moments when you trip and stumble in public?
Oh, yeah.
Or you totally blank on somebody's name and you've met them a million times.
I once spilled a full cup of coffee on a potential client during a job interview.
Oh, no.
Talk about feeling flustered.
So flustered really captures that blend of confusion and nervousness and slight embarrassment.
Yeah. It's like when you're trying to tell a story and you completely forget the punchline.
Yeah, you're laughing,
Let's see.
but cringing inside at the same time.
And I'm guessing it's the opposite of nonchalance.
I would say so, yeah. Nonchalance is like that outward projection, and flustered is the internal experience.
So maybe being able to laugh at ourselves when we're feeling flustered is a sign of confidence.
That's a good point. It's certainly a sign of self-awareness and resilience, I think.
Okay, let's move on to a word that, doesn't necessarily spark joy, like serendipity. It's mundane.
Oh, the daily grind, the routine, the things that can feel soul-crushing if we let them.
Right. Recognizing those aspects of our lives that feel repetitive or uninspired
Yeah.
or lacking in excitement.
And this connects back to your desire to elevate your language.
Yeah.
Because using richer vocabulary can be a way to break free from the mundane.
I love that.
So imagine describing your daily commute
Yeah.
as a dreary procession of metal boxes instead of just a boring drive.
It paints such a picture,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Okay, so recognizing the mundane isn't about dwelling in negativity.
Yeah.
It's about becoming aware of
Yeah.
the areas in our lives where we might be on autopilot. And then we
Yeah.
can use language to shift our perspective, find the beauty or humor even in the everyday.
I love that. It's like reclaiming your power
Yeah.
to shape your experience through the words you choose.
Okay. I love this. It's like we're turning these words into tools for self-discovery and
Yeah.
personal growth.
I like that, yeah.
Okay, let's go to eloquent.
Oh, eloquent.
It makes me think of great orators captivating audiences with their words.
Yeah, but eloquence isn't just for the stage or the pulpit, right?
Right?
It's a quality we can cultivate in our everyday conversations.
So it's not just about using big words or fancy language.
No,
Yeah.
it's about clarity, precision, choosing the words that resonate with your audience.
So someone like Maya Angelou, her words were simple,
Yes.
but so powerful.
So powerful, yes.
So eloquence is about authenticity and connection,
I think so.
not just sounding impressive.
Exactly.
And it takes practice.
It does.
But the rewards, I think, are huge.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's acknowledge we don't always have all the answers. And sometimes we have these mixed feelings about a situation.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And that's where ambivalent comes in.
Yes, ambivalent.
Because it acknowledges that we can have those conflicting thoughts and feelings.
Right. It's like when you're offered a job that has amazing perks,
Yeah.
but requires you to move away from your family and friends.
Right. On the one hand, you're thrilled.
Yeah.
But
excited about the opportunity.
on the other, it's like, oh, but,
Yeah.
you know,
So it's not about being indecisive.
no,
It's about recognizing the nuance.
absolutely.
And rather than forcing ourselves to choose a side,
Right.
embracing ambivalence allows us to hold space for both.
Absolutely. And even use it as a conversation starter instead of just saying, I don't know.
Right.
Right.
Which shuts things down.
Mhm.
You can say, well, I'm ambivalent about this.
Yeah.
And it invites further discussion.
I'm sensing a theme here. These words are not just about expanding our vocabulary. They're about becoming more comfortable with the complexities of human experience.
Yeah, that's it. It's about embracing the full spectrum and finding the language to express those.
Okay, let's inject a little humor with facetious.
Oh, facetious. Love it.
This is about not taking ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, it's playful. It's using humor or even sarcasm to lighten things up a little.
So like when someone asks, how's your day going?
Mm-hmm.
And you respond, oh, fantastic. I'm just loving this traffic jam with a big smile on your face.
Yeah.
Right.
But facetiousness can be tricky.
It can be, yeah.
You have to read the room.
You do, because if you're not careful, it can be misinterpreted.
Yeah.
So it's all about being aware of your audience
Yeah.
and the context. You know, a well-timed, witty remark can create that bond and laughter,
Yeah.
but the wrong time, disaster.
Right. And I'm guessing it takes a certain amount of self-awareness.
It does, yeah. You have to be able to laugh at yourself.
Okay. I'm ready to embrace my inner facetiousness.
Good. I like it.
But first, let's go to a place of perfection. Pristine.
Ah, pristine. It's such a beautiful word.
It evokes a sense of untouched beauty, something in its ideal state.
It is, yeah. Like a secluded beach.
White sand, crystal clear water.
No footprints.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or a perfectly preserved antique.
Yes. Gleaming like new.
Yeah. So it's more than just physical objects.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, how so?
You can have a pristine reputation
Oh.
and a pristine performance.
I see. So it's flawless, impeccable,
Yeah.
free from flaws or imperfections.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a powerful word.
It is, yeah. And it's, you know, it connects back to our whole idea of elevating everyday language.
Yeah.
Because by using these words more intentionally, we add that depth and nuance.
Okay, so pristine is not just a perfectly clean room. It's striving for excellence and clarity in all aspects of our lives.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Wow, we've explored 6 of the words on your list. We'll be back with more in part 2 of this deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Welcome back to our deep dive.
I am still kind of buzzing from our exploration of those first 6 words.
Yeah.
But we're just getting started. We've got 5 more.
We do. And remember, this isn't about just adding words. It's about expanding your capacity for expression,
Yeah.
connecting with people on a deeper level. So where should we go next?
Let's revisit flustered, because I think we've all been there. That feeling of being caught off guard, a little embarrassed.
Totally. Your mind racing.
Yeah, we talked about it being the opposite of nonchalant, but is there a way to reclaim our composure when we're feeling flustered?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of the power of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
If you recognize you're feeling that way, you can start to manage it. It's like saying to yourself, okay, I'm a little flustered right now, but I'm going to take a deep breath.
So it's like acknowledging the feeling, but not letting it control you.
Yeah, and sometimes humor can be a good way to kind of diffuse the tension.
Yeah.
If you can laugh at yourself and the situation.
Right. It takes the sting out of it.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so laugh at my flustered moments. Got it.
Add it to the list.
Okay, let's shift to a word that I think often gets a bad rap. Mundane.
Okay.
It's easy to see it as like the enemy of excitement, right?
Right. The ordinary, the routine, the things that can, feel a little soul-crushing.
Yeah. But we talked earlier about how recognizing the mundane can be a catalyst for change.
Yeah, because it's about becoming aware of those areas in our lives that have just become automatic. We're going through the motions.
Like brushing our teeth or commuting to work or checking email, things we do every day without really thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And those things, they can start to feel draining if we don't find a way to inject some meaning into them.
Okay, so how do we do that?
I think it starts with awareness, right? Once you recognize it, you can choose to approach it differently.
Okay.
Maybe you listen to a podcast while you're doing chores.
Or you try a new route on your commute. Or maybe you use that mundane task as an opportunity for mindfulness.
Oh, I love that.
So instead of rushing through your morning routine, you focus on the sensations.
Yeah.
Like brushing your teeth or the taste of your coffee.
Being present in those little moments.
Yeah. So it's about finding those moments of beauty, even in the midst of the ordinary.
Yes.
And language can play a role in this, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, how so?
Well, by using more descriptive language, we can shift our perspective. So instead of describing your job as boring, which has that negative connotation,
Right.
maybe you say predictable,
Okay.
which then opens up that possibility of, well, how can I be more creative? How can I challenge myself?
So we're reframing the experience through the words we choose.
And that can impact our emotions
Yeah.
and our actions. It's like looking at a familiar painting, but with fresh eyes.
Okay. I like that. So recognizing the mundane is not about dwelling in negativity. It's about becoming aware of the potential for transformation.
I love that.
Yes.
All right. Let's go back to eloquent. We talked about how it's not about using big words.
Yeah.
It's about conveying your message clearly.
With impact.
With impact.
Yeah.
We talked about how Maya Angelou embodied eloquence.
Yes.
But how do we cultivate that in our own lives? Is it something we're born with, or can it be developed?
I think it can be developed. I think it's like learning a musical instrument. You don't become a virtuoso overnight.
Right.
It takes practice. So any practical tips for developing eloquence?
It starts with being mindful of the words you choose, right?
Okay.
Pay attention to the subtle differences between words that might seem synonymous.
Okay. So like instead of just saying happy, maybe I say delighted, joyful, exuberant. Yeah.
Right.
Depending on the specific shade of happy I want to express.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. Try using new words, even if you're not sure you're using them exactly right. The more you play with language, the more comfortable you become.
Like trying on different outfits.
I love that.
You might not love everything.
Yes.
But you develop a sense of what works for you.
Exactly. And just like with fashion, with eloquence, you find your own style.
Okay.
There's no right way to be eloquent.
I'm feeling inspired to expand my linguistic wardrobe.
Good. I like that.
But let's be real. There are times when even the most eloquent person
Yeah.
is left speechless.
Totally.
We're faced with a situation so complex
Yeah.
that we don't even know what we think.
Yeah, those gray areas in life
Yeah.
where we don't have those clear-cut answers. And that's where ambivalent is really helpful.
It allows us to hold space for both sides.
Exactly. Instead of forcing yourself to choose a side,
Yeah.
you could acknowledge the validity of both perspectives.
It's like being a judge in a courtroom. You have to listen to both sides
Yeah,
before reaching a verdict.
that's a great analogy. And
Sure.
just like a judge, you have to have that detachment and objectivity.
So how do we cultivate that? How do we avoid getting swept away by our own biases or emotions?
I think it starts with curiosity.
Okay.
Instead of jumping to a conclusion, you approach it with a desire to understand. So ask questions. Really listen.
Be willing to sit with the discomfort of not knowing.
Exactly.
That reminds me of the quote from Rumi, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there."
That's beautiful. And it really does speak to that ability to be open.
Yeah. Okay, so we've explored flustered, mundane, eloquent, ambivalent, and now we have one more word. And it's facetious.
Facetious.
I feel like a shift in tone.
Yes, we're bringing in the humor.
Yeah, a little playfulness.
Yeah, a little playfulness.
Okay, so facetious is all about using humor, sometimes sarcasm, to lighten the mood. But it's a delicate dance, right?
It is.
Because you could offend.
It's all about subtlety and timing. Like a well-placed wink.
Okay.
You know, it can create that shared understanding.
But if you wink at the wrong person or at the wrong time, it can be a disaster.
Exactly. Exactly. So you have to read the room and know your audience.
So probably not something you would use with a stranger.
Maybe not, unless you're really good at reading social cues.
Right.
You have that confidence. But even then, it's a risk.
So how do we develop that sense of when to use facetious? Is it something that just comes with experience?
I think so. The more you interact with people, the more you'll learn about social dynamics, those subtle cues.
And I'm guessing self-awareness plays a role here too.
Absolutely. Being able to laugh at yourself, not take things too seriously.
So it's like you're saying, hey, I trust you enough to let you see my lighter side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when it's done well,
Yeah.
it can create that joy and intimacy.
So it's not just about making a witty remark. It's about creating that shared moment
Absolutely.
of laughter and connection.
I love that. Yes.
Wow. We have explored so much in this segment alone. We've gone from the depths of flustered moments to the transformative power of the mundane, from the art of eloquence to the nuances of ambivalence and the delicate dance of facetiousness. And in the final part of this deep dive, we're going to bring it all together and discuss how to integrate these words into your everyday life, making them not just words you know, but words you use.
Sounds good.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring these 11 words, but now comes the exciting part. How do we actually make them a part of our conversations?
Yeah, it's like we've got this great toolkit,
Right.
but we need to know how to use it.
So how do we go beyond simply knowing the words to actually using them naturally, effortlessly?
I think it's about weaving them into the fabric of your communication.
Yeah.
And the beauty is it doesn't have to be a big, daunting task.
Okay, so no flashcards.
No flashcards, no.
Not endless drills.
Start small. Focus on integration.
Okay, I like that. So where do we begin?
Okay, well, instead of trying to master all 11 at once, pick just 3 that really speak to you.
That you can envision yourself using.
Exactly. Let those be your linguistic companions for the week.
So like if someone is drawn to the idea of serendipity, embracing chance encounters, they might choose serendipity, nonchalant, and pristine.
Oh, nice. I like those choices.
Yeah.
That works.
So once you've chosen your 3 words, what's next?
Make them visible. Write them down. Put them on sticky notes.
Okay. Around your house.
Yeah, around the house. On your mirror.
Yeah.
On the fridge.
Yeah.
Reminders on your phone.
So you're creating this subtle awareness.
Exactly. And every time you see that word, challenge yourself to use it.
Okay. In a sentence.
Yeah. Say it out loud or just think it in your head.
Right. Just to get that familiarity.
Yeah. Just make it feel more natural.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Oh, no.
Try using the words in different situations.
With different people.
See how they fit.
Absolutely. It's like trying on new shoes. You got to walk around in them a little bit.
Okay. I'm starting to feel more confident about using these words.
I love that.
What about writing? Can that be a helpful tool?
Oh, absolutely. It gives you that low pressure environment. You can take your time, look up definitions, and play around.
Like journaling.
Yeah. Journaling is great. Or even emails, text messages.
Just finding those opportunities.
Yeah, to just stretch those linguistic muscles.
Yeah. And what about observation? Paying attention to how others use language.
Oh, that's huge.
I listen to a ton of podcasts, and I'm always picking up new words and phrases.
Yeah, pay attention. What words are they using? How are they using them? The tone of voice, the pacing.
And you can even borrow.
Yeah. See what you like.
Okay, so we've talked about picking 3 words, making them visible, practice, observation. Any final advice as we wrap up this deep dive?
Yeah, I would say, remember, the goal is not to sound pretentious.
Right.
It's about enriching your communication, being authentic.
It's about unlocking the power of language to enhance your everyday experience.
I love that.
So I'd like to leave everyone with this challenge. Choose just one word we've explored and try to use it in a conversation.
Notice how it feels.
How it changes the flow of the conversation.
Have fun with it.
Yeah. Remember, language is a gift. It's a tool for connection, creativity, self-expression. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring and keep expressing yourself.
Thanks for listening.
All right, word nerds, you ready to geek out a little?
Always.
Today, we're going deep, deep, deep into the wild world of commonly misused words.
Yeah, these are fun.
It's like, we all use these words every day, right?
Right.
But sometimes even the most experienced writers and speakers can trip over them.
It happens to the best of us.
So today, we're going to unpack the nuances, the little tricks, the things that make these words so darn slippery.
And hopefully save you some embarrassment along the way.
Exactly. Like using the wrong word in a big presentation, that's a no-go.
Oh, absolutely.
So think of this deep dive as like a linguistic boot camp for your brain.
Love it.
We're going to make sure you're using these words correctly, confidently, and with style.
Yeah, no more grammar faux pas.
Okay, let's kick things off with a pair that always seems to cause confusion. Affect versus effect.
Ah, yes, the classic duo.
I feel like these two are like the ultimate word pair pranksters.
They really are. They sound so similar, but their meanings, they're totally different.
All right, break it down for us. What's the deal with affect?
So affect, most commonly, is a verb. It's an action word. And it means to influence or to make a change in something.
Okay, so like the weather can affect your mood.
Perfect example. Gloomy day, you feel a bit down. The weather has affected your mood.
Right. Makes sense. So then effect is the outcome, the result.
Exactly. Effect is usually a noun. Think of it as the consequence of something.
Okay, so like the effect of the rain was a flooded garden.
Precisely. The rain caused the flooding. The flooding is the effect.
Got it. But wait, I think I read somewhere that effect can sometimes be a verb too, right?
You're absolutely right. Sharp memory. Effect can be a verb, but it's way less common and much more formal.
Ooh, fancy. So when would you use affect as a verb?
It means like to bring about or to make happen. Like if you're talking about affecting change or affecting a solution.
Ah, I see. It's all about context.
Exactly. And that's what makes these words so tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, the subtle differences. But you know what? I'm kind of starting to enjoy these little word puzzles.
Me too. It's like a brain workout.
Okay, so we've tackled affect versus effect. What's next on our list of linguistic landmines?
How about then and then?
Ah, yes. These two always seem to trip people up, even though the difference seems pretty simple.
You'd think so, right? But you'd be surprised how often they get mixed up.
Okay, so remind us. What's the deal with then?
Then is all about time and sequence. It tells us what happens next in a series of events.
Okay, so like I woke up, then I had breakfast. Right.
Perfect. Then is our time traveler. It guides us through the order of things.
Okay, then for time. So then is for comparison.
You got it. Then helps us weigh things against each other, make choices, express preferences.
So this coffee is stronger than the tea.
Yes. Then is our comparison champion.
I'm starting to feel more confident already. What other word pairs are lurking out there waiting to trip us up?
Well, how about it's versus its?
Ooh, the apostrophe attack.
I know, right? This one is all about understanding possessive pronouns and contractions.
Okay, so it's with no apostrophe shows possession, like his or hers.
Exactly. The cat chased its tail. No apostrophe needed there.
But it's, with the apostrophe is short for it is or it has.
You got it. It's a contraction, a shortened form. Like, it's a beautiful day. Apostrophe day.
Okay, I think I'm getting this. So it's is possessive, no apostrophe, and it's is a contraction with the apostrophe.
You got it. And here's a little trick to help you remember.
Lay it on me.
If you can replace it's in a sentence with it is or it has, and it still makes sense, then you're using it correctly.
That's helpful. So if I can say it is a beautiful day, then I know to use it's with the apostrophe.
Exactly.
Awesome. I feel like I'm leveling up my grammar skills already.
Well, you are. Keep it up.
All right, what's next on our word pair hit list?
How about a pair that's often confused, especially in written form? Lose versus loose.
Oh, yeah. These two can be sneaky. They sound almost identical.
But remember, spelling matters.
All right, help me out here. Which one is about misplacing something?
Lose is one about misplacing, not winning, or being deprived of something.
Okay, so you lose your keys or you lose a game.
Exactly.
So then loose must be the one that means not tight.
You got it.
Yeah.
Loose is an adjective. It describes something that isn't fastened or is free from restraint.
Like, my shoelaces are loose, or that dog is running loose.
Perfect examples.
Oh, wait, okay. Lose for losing something and loose for not tight. I think I can finally keep those straight.
I think you got it. Just remember, 1 OO means you lost something, 2 O's means something is free.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to remember that. Okay, I'm ready for the next word pair challenge.
All right, let's dive into fewer versus less.
Ooh, these two. I always get them mixed up.
It's a common mistake, but the rule is pretty simple.
All right, tell me, what's the trick to remembering which is which?
Think about whether you can count the things you're talking about. If you can count them individually, use fewer.
Okay, so like fewer apples or fewer students?
Exactly. You can count apples and students one by one.
And then less is for things you can't count individually.
Precisely. Less water, less time, less sand.
Got it. So fewer for things you can count, less for things you can't.
You're natural.
I'm starting to feel like a word wizard. What other word pairs are waiting to be demystified?
Well, get ready for this one because it's a doozy. Lie versus lay.
Oh, here we go. I know there's a difference, but I can never remember which is which.
This one has been tripping people up for centuries.
Okay, break it down for me. Which one is about resting?
Lie, with no object, is about reclining or resting. Like, I need to lie down.
Okay, and lay needs an object.
Right. Lay means to put or place something. So, lay the book on the table.
Oh, okay. So I lie down on the couch, but I lay the book down on the table.
You got it. Think of it this way. Chickens lay eggs. They're placing something down.
The classic chicken and egg example. That helps. Okay, I think I'm starting to get the hang of this. Lie for resting, lay for placing something.
You're on a roll.
All right, hit me with one more before we wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Okay, how about farther versus further?
Ooh, yeah, I've definitely used these interchangeably before. But I know there's a subtle difference, right?
There is. Think about it this way. Farther is for physical distance, something you can measure.
Okay, so like I ran farther than you, or the store is farther down the road.
Exactly. Further, on the other hand, is more about figurative distance or a greater degree or extent.
So we need to discuss this further, or I want to further my education.
Precisely.
Okay, so farther for physical distance, further for figurative distance.
You've got it. You're a word pair master.
Wow, my brain is definitely getting a workout today.
That's what we like to hear. Stay tuned because we've got a whole lot more word pair fun coming your way. All right, welcome back to our word pair extravaganza.
I'm ready for round 2. What tricky duos are we tackling today?
Well, let's start with a pair that often causes confusion, especially when you're trying to express admiration. Compliment versus compliment.
Oh, yes. These two sound so similar, but I know their meanings are totally different. I've definitely seen them misused before.
It happens. Compliment is all about praise, saying something nice.
So if I tell you I love your insights on word pairs, that's a compliment.
It certainly is, and a very kind one at that.
Thanks. Now, what about compliment? How is that different?
Compliment is more about enhancing or completing something. Think of things that go well together.
Okay, so like that scarf complements your outfit, or the wine complements the cheese.
Perfect examples. Compliment is all about creating a sense of harmony or completeness.
Got it. Compliments boost our egos, and compliments enhance our style, or our cheese boards.
Exactly. What do you say we move on to another tricky pair?
Hit me with it.
How about everyday versus everyday?
Ooh, the sneaky space.
This one's all about knowing the difference between an adjective and an adverbial phrase.
Okay, remind me. What's an adjective again?
An adjective describes something like everyday clothes, meaning ordinary or routine clothes.
Right. And an adverbial phrase tells us when or how often something happens.
Exactly. Every day means each day, without exception, like I drink coffee every day.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see the difference. So every day is an adjective describing something ordinary, and every day is an adverbial phrase meaning each day.
You've got it.
Oh.
And believe me, using the right one makes a big difference in your writing.
Noted. I'll definitely be watching out for that one from now on. What's next?
Let's tackle bring versus take.
Oh, this one always makes me think of those awkward party situations. When someone asks you to bring something and you're not sure if you should take it home with you later.
I think we've all been there. Bring is all about movement towards a specific location or towards the speaker. So if you're hosting a party, you'd ask guests to bring a dish.
Right, bring it to the party where I am.
Exactly. And take implies movement away from the speaker or location. So after the party, they would take their leftovers home.
Bring it towards you. Take it away.
Got it in one. Now, how about we test your memory on a word pair we talked about earlier? Do you remember the difference between principal and principal?
Oh, I think I do. Principal is like the head honcho of a school, right?
You got it. And principle is a fundamental truth or belief.
So a principal could have strong principles.
Nicely put. It seems like you're really mastering these word pairs. Ready for another one?
Absolutely. Bring it on.
Okay, how about stationary versus stationary?
Ooh, I always think of office supplies with this one.
Good association. Stationary is all about writing materials like paper, envelopes, pens, that kind of stuff.
So when something is stationary, it means it's not moving.
Precisely. Think stationary bike. It stays in one place.
Okay, got it. I'll remember to stock up on stationery before my next stationary bike session.
Perfect. I think you're ready for a real grammar challenge now.
Ooh, bring on the big guns.
Okay, how about who versus whom?
Uh-oh, I can already feel my brain sweating.
Don't worry, it's not as scary as it seems. Who is used when you're referring to the subject of a sentence, the person performing the action?
Okay, like who ate the last cookie? Who is the cookie monster in this case?
Exactly. Now, whom is used when referring to the object of a sentence, the person receiving the action.
So, to whom did you give the cookie?
Yes. Whom is receiving the cookie?
All right, I think I'm starting to get it. Who does the action? Whom receives the action?
You got it. And here's a helpful tip. If you can replace the word with he or she, use who. If you could replace it with him or her, use whom.
That's a great trick. I'll definitely remember that. Okay, what other word pairs are we going to conquer today?
Let's talk about emigrate versus immigrate.
Ooh, these two always sound so similar to me.
They do. Think of it this way. Emigrate is about leaving a country. E for exit.
Okay, emigrate is to exit a country.
When emigrate is to come into a country.
Ah, I see. And for into.
Exactly. So someone might emigrate from one country and immigrate to another.
Okay, I think I can remember that. Emigrate to leave. Immigrate to come in.
You're getting the hang of this. Ready for another one?
Bring it on.
Okay, let's tackle a pair that sounds almost identical, but has totally different meanings. Illicit versus illicit.
Ooh, I've definitely mixed these up before.
It's a common mistake. Illicit means illegal or forbidden. Think illicit activities.
Okay, illicit is bad news.
Right. And illicit means to draw out or evoke something.
So like the comedian's jokes elicited laughter from the audience.
Exactly. Illicit brings something out, while illicit is something that's hidden or prohibited.
Okay, I'm starting to see the difference. Illicit is good, illicit is bad.
You got it. What do you say we move on to a pair that's a bit more lighthearted?
I'm all for that.
Okay, how about desert versus dessert?
Ooh, this one makes me hungry.
Me too. But first, let's clear up the confusion. Desert is that dry, barren landscape.
Right, think camels and sand dunes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And dessert is that sweet treat you enjoy after a meal.
Okay, so desert is a place, and dessert is something you eat.
Precisely. And here's a little trick to remember the difference. Dessert has two S's, because you always want seconds.
That's a good one. I'll definitely remember that. Okay, what's next on our word pair menu?
How about we explore the difference between imply versus infer?
Ooh, these two are tricky. I always get them mixed up.
It's common confusion. Imply is what the speaker does. They suggest something indirectly or hint at something.
Okay, so like if I say, it's getting late with a big yawn, I'm implying that it's time for you to go.
Exactly. You're not directly saying it, but you're definitely hinting at it.
Subtle communication. And to infer is what the listener does.
Precisely. So in your example, I would infer from your yawn and your comment that it's time for me to head home.
The speaker implies and the listener infers. It's like a linguistic dance.
I like that. It's all about reading between the lines and understanding the subtle cues in communication.
This is fascinating. Okay, what's next on our word pair adventure?
How about historic versus historical?
Ooh, this one makes me think of history class. But I always get these two confused.
It's a common mistake. Think of historic as referring to something important or momentous in history, something that really made a mark.
Okay, so a historic event is a big deal, like a turning point in history.
Exactly. And historical simply means related to history or the past.
So a historical document could be anything from a peace treaty to a grocery list.
Exactly. Historical is more general. It just means something that happened in the past.
Got it. Historic is significant. Historical is from the past. Okay, hit me with another word pair challenge.
All right, how about insure versus insure?
Ooh, I always think of insurance policies with these two.
That's a good connection. Insure is all about protecting against financial loss, like you insure your car or your house.
Okay, and insure means to make sure something will happen.
Precisely. You might ensure that the door is locked before you leave, or ensure that you have all the necessary documents for a meeting.
So insure is for financial protection, and insure is about guaranteeing something will happen.
You got it. What do you say we wrap up this part of our word pair exploration with one last challenge?
I'm game. Let's do it.
Okay, how about disinterested versus uninterested?
Ooh, I have a feeling I've been using these incorrectly.
A lot of people do. Disinterested means impartial or unbiased.
Okay, so a judge should be disinterested in a case, meaning they have no personal stake in the outcome.
Exactly. Now, uninterested simply means not interested or bored.
Ah, so I might be uninterested in watching a boring documentary.
Precisely. So disinterested is about neutrality, while uninterested is about lack of interest.
Got it. I'll definitely be more careful with those two from now on.
I'm impressed with your progress. You've really mastered a lot of these tricky word pairs.
Thanks. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm definitely feeling more confident about my language skills. All right, One Warriors, we're back for the final round of our deep dive into commonly misused words.
Are you ready to conquer some more tricky pairs?
Bring it on! My brain is warmed up and ready for the challenge.
Excellent. Let's jump right in with a pair that often causes confusion when it comes to giving and receiving guidance. Advice versus advice.
Ah, yes, the age-old dilemma of seeking wisdom versus offering it.
Precisely. Advice, with a C, is a noun. It's the guidance or recommendation offered to someone.
So, I need some advice on how to handle this tricky situation at work.
Perfect example. You're seeking guidance, so you need advice.
And advise, with an S, is the verb, the act of giving that guidance.
Exactly. You might say, my mentor advised me to take a deep breath and approach the problem calmly.
Okay, so advice is what we receive, and advise is what we give.
You've got it. Remember, advice is something you can take, while advise is something you do.
Got it. I'll try to keep those straight. What's next on our word pair battleground?
How about a pair that often causes confusion when it comes to locations of power and financial resources? Capital versus capital.
Ooh, this one makes me think of grand buildings and important decisions.
You're on the right track. Capital, with an al, has several meanings. It can refer to a city that serves as the seat of government.
Like Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States.
Exactly. Capital can also refer to wealth in the form of money or assets.
Like, I need more capital to start my own business.
Precisely. And capital can even refer to an uppercase letter.
Ah, so many meanings for one little word. Now, what about capital with an ol?
Capital with an ol refers specifically to a building where a legislature meets.
Like the United States Capitol building where Congress makes laws.
Exactly. So remember, capital is more general, while capital refers specifically to a government building.
Okay, I'll try to keep those grand buildings straight. What's next on our list of tricky duos?
How about a pair that's all about being together or being complete? All together versus all together.
Ooh, this one always makes me think of group hugs and finishing a big project.
I love those images. All together, as two words, means in a group or collectively.
So let's sing happy birthday all together.
Perfect. You're all singing as one group.
And all together as one word means completely or entirely.
Exactly. Like, I'm altogether exhausted after that word pair marathon.
I can relate to that. So all together means in a group, and all together means completely. Got it.
You're a word pair whiz.
Yeah.
What do you say we tackle one more tricky pair before we wrap up our deep dive?
Absolutely. I'm feeling unstoppable.
Okay, how about a pair that's all about giving reassurance and making things certain? Ashore versus inshore.
Ooh, these two sound very similar, but I know they have distinct meanings.
They do. Ashore, with an S, means to make someone feel confident or certain about something.
So I assure you that everything will be fine.
Exactly. You're easing their worries and giving them confidence.
And ensure with an N means to make certain that something will happen.
Precisely. You might say, please ensure that you lock the door before you leave.
Ah, so assure is about giving someone confidence, and ensure is about making something certain to happen.
You've got it. Assure calms the mind, while ensure guarantees an outcome.
I love how these subtle distinctions can make such a big difference in our communication.
It's amazing, isn't it, the power of words?
This deep dive has been an incredible journey. We've explored so many tricky word pairs, uncovered hidden meanings, and sharpened our language skills along the way.
It's been a pleasure sharing these linguistic adventures with you.
I'm feeling so much more confident about my word choices now.
That's what we love to hear. And remember, language is constantly evolving, so the journey of learning never really ends.
Absolutely. So to all you fellow word nerds out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep playing with the amazing power of words. Until next time, happy wordsmithing.